Welcome back, viewers, to the Madhouse. Photography appears to be an easy activity. In fact, it is a varied and ambiguous process in which the only common denominator among its practitioners is their instruments. Wise words from no less an authority than the great Henri Cartier-Bresson. But what's my point? The point is, as photographers, as we go about on our journey of photography, we sometimes have a tendency to accumulate things above and beyond the mere instrument of our practitioner, whatever the fuck I just said. I don't know. The point is, there's a lot of shit clogging up our camera bags, and I'd like to show you at least top 4 or 5 things that I've wasted my hard-earned money on that I never use. And maybe you might agree with me, or you might not. Just save your hate for the comment section. And the first thing that I'm going to show you are these. What do you call these things? Close-up lenses? Well, like 58mm Vivitar, I don't give a fuck. They're close-up lenses. What you're supposed to do is take a good normal standard lens, such as this AFS Nikkor 50mm 1.4, and screw on one of these cunts, and then you can focus up close. Basically, it's a poor man's macro lens, and I have absolutely no idea why I bought them, because I never actually use them. They only cost me $10 at a pawn shop, but whatever. Which is funny, because I already have a perfectly good macro lens, the macro Nikkor 55mm 2.8, which is an absolutely world-class lens. This, of course, it will do the job if you need it to, but the image quality is not going to be anywhere near as good. So, I have absolutely no idea. It's just one of those things you buy on impulse. But I think I've made my point. That's my top. That's number 1. Close-up lenses. Complete waste of money. Don't bother with them. Bin 'em. Goodbye. Number 2. What is number 2? I've got a few things here. Filters. Filters, filters, filters. You know, back in the days of 35mm film, I used a lot of filters, but most of us, unless you're a hipster, most of us don't actually shoot film anymore. And I've got these lovely coloured filters. I remember back when I was shooting 35mm film, you shoot indoors at night under incandescent lights, you could put a blue filter and you would balance out the colour to something approaching normal. But since with digital cameras that have auto white balance, that's completely redundant. And even in black and white shooting, you can program the filter effects into the camera. So the filters are basically a waste of money. Again, I bought them on impulse. These were $5 each from a pawn shop. So that's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, $40. $40 that I spent on these. And I can only, again, use them on the one lens that I own that has a 58mm filter thread. Because, well, I don't know. That, of course, doesn't account all the other filters that I've got over the years that came on lenses that I bought, second-hand lenses, or just people have given to me or whatever. Particularly the dreaded UV filter. Now, open up your bastard. UV filters. Look at that. Single-coated. I mean, most of them were sold with the lenses because the camera store assistant was upselling just to get a little bit more cash. And most lenses, you don't really need them. They don't really help protect the lens unless you've got an old 1950s Leica lens that has the elements that are soft as glass and you need to protect them. But most modern lenses are okay, you don't need that. Unless it's the really super duper expensive multi-coated ones, like the Nikon. They're really not that good. In fact, the only filter that I would ever recommend that anyone get, for any reason, it would be the circular polarizer, which is pretty much mandatory for shooting outside in bright sunlight. But other than that, you don't really need filters. So, again, cluttering up my camera bag, you can all fuck off. I said fuck off. Another accessory that you may or may not, some of you are going to hate on me for this, but how many of us actually use the lens hoods? Sometimes no. I mean, yeah, sometimes they just you put them on the front of the camera and it makes you look like, oh, this guy's a photographer. This guy means business because he's got a lens hood on his camera, but unless you're shooting in sunlight, they're useless. Goodbye. And it's just wasting space in your camera bag. And you fuck them off. And another thing that I have a beef about are teleconverters. Teleconverters, yes. Hang on, that's not a teleconverter. That's a teleconverter. God, I'm fucking tired. Nikon TC301 teleconverter for... This is specifically made to use with the lenses 300mm and longer. In fact, I bought it to go with my 300mm 2.8. And I've used it exactly once, and I was not really impressed with the image quality. Well, more testing is required, but we'll see how that one goes. And here's another one, Auto Teleplay. I think it's the M42 thread mount for my old Pentax Spotmatic. I don't think I use that much either. But this at least has a... I don't know. Jeez, I'm tired. They really don't do much. They're a waste of time. In fact, if you want to get image quality, just crop your image. You get better image quality just cropping in the image anyway. Complete waste of time. And another thing that frequently clutters up our camera bag are lenses that we don't use. Now, if you're like me and you like to buy shit, you eventually accumulate a whole crap ton of lenses, and some of which you don't use, and it's a waste of money. And sometimes people give you stuff. They know that you're into photography, and they have, you know, Grandpa's old camera, he doesn't use it anymore, since he died, so, and they end up giving it to you. Or there's this one which I fished out of a recycling bin. Didn't cost me anything. But then again, I don't really use it much anyway. Didn't cost me anything, but still, it's taking up space in my camera bag because I don't use it. It's entirely redundant. And basically, we all have lenses like that. I think. There's no point. I mean, sometimes I went through a fit of rationalization a few years ago and I got rid of a lot of stuff, but again, it accumulates. You just can't help yourself. Because I'm stupid. And I'm trying again. And occasionally, another thing is camera bodies that sometimes you had them years ago. You remember when you bought them? Remember the Nikon D200? That was a good camera back in the day. But I don't use it anymore. In fact, the last time I used it was photographing documents for fucking Centrelink. Or whoever, well, potential employers when I was looking for a job. And that was the only thing I needed it for and nothing else, because I've got 5 other Nikon DSLRs. And the poor old thing, nearly minty shape, and it just doesn't get used. In fact, I've given away cameras. Some of them, my daughter has at least 2 of them that I don't use. She'll probably be getting this one eventually. When I eventually update my other equipment and this gets pushed off. And there you have it, viewers. Shit cluttering up your camera bag. Did I miss anything? Yeah, I probably did. No, I probably... yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. I'd missed something. We've got, what is this, we call these things lens converters, fucking, I don't know, you take a lens of one mount and you put it on a camera with another mount. I can't forget because my brain is locked up and I can't think of what they're called. But I know to convert Nikon F-mount lenses so that I could use them on a Leica M-mount rangefinder body. Because I have a lot of good Nikon lenses, and Leica lenses are fucking expensive. I can get a lot more value out of my Leica M10. That is actually useful, actually. But I have a few of the converters which are completely useless because I don't use them. First and foremost is this one. This one converts M39 thread mount lenses. I don't use it because I have one M39 thread mount lens and it has its own converter on it. So this is basically redundant. And another one that I accumulated somehow, I have no idea where the fuck this one came from. It's M42 to Pentax K, which is great because I don't own any Pentax K mount bodies. I had a K1000 years ago, but I got rid of that. Don't use it. And I hope you enjoyed my little trip through our measure lane there. A lot of shit that we accumulate. Maybe as we go through our photographic journey and we become hopefully wiser, we sometimes have a tendency to, well, we learn as we go and stop buying useless shit. But sometimes, you know, gas, man, it happens. We get gas. The dreaded gear acquisition syndrome. And sometimes we do end up coming with useful stuff like, yeah, the blowy thing. I remember you used to be able to get there in a can, but I haven't seen it for ages. God, I miss that. Lens hoods sometimes. They can be useful, they can be useless. What's this one? This is for a Leica 28-2 f2 Summicron. Use it, goes back in the box for resale. If I ever resale, I just pass it on my daughter. You know what, I think I've rambled long enough. Have a great day, everyone.